Esto es Gana tu Día, el podcast. El lugar correcto para adquirir tu dosis semanal de estrategia de formación de hábitos en las áreas más importantes de tu vida. Para que todas las noches cuando llegues a tu cama puedas decir, hoy yo gané mi día. Bienvenidas y bienvenidos a Gana tu Día, el podcast. Este es el lugar donde aprenderás a cómo desarrollar los hábitos que te ayudarán a tomar el control de tu vida. Para que todas las noches cuando llegues a tu cama puedas decir, hoy yo gané mi día. Esto es un episodio especial. Somos un movimiento de formación de hábitos para hispanos, pero eso no quiere decir que nos vamos a limitar a aprender solamente de latino. Por el contrario, este episodio es el primer episodio que grabaremos en inglés, pero si lo quieres ver con subtítulos en español, te invito a que lo veas a través de nuestro canal de YouTube. Así que vamos a empezar una vez más. Welcome to Gana tu Día podcast. This is a weekly dose of habits development that will help you become the person the world needs you to be. I am Carlos Figueroa, and I am the founder of Gana tu Día, and my goal with this movement is to impact the life of 100,000 people so that every night when they go to bed, they can also say, I won my day. Every week, there are three things that you will find here. Number one, you will get to know a little bit more about Gana tu Día, el podcast, and our movement. Number two, you will learn strategies that will help you win your day. And number three, I will always interview people that don't work. They just simply enjoy life because what they do every day is their calling, is their passion, is something that they love. And we want to extract from them anything we can learn in order to do things in a better way in our own lives. So all I ask you to do is that please you follow us on Facebook and Instagram and subscribe to our YouTube channel so that you can help us reach our vision to touch the lives of 100,000 people. This is the very first time I do a global interview, and I am beyond excited of the person we're getting to know today. Every single day, in every walk of life, ordinary people do extraordinary things. This is a quote from Jim Valvano that has resonated so much with me that it's right now like a self-esteem pillar. Whenever I am aiming for a moonshot, I remember that ordinary people do extraordinary things. And it's funny because my Facebook memory from today is sharing Jim Valvano's actual speech. So, I don't believe in coincidence. And my guest was the person who gave me the first opportunity to hear it. He calls himself a podcast host, an author, entrepreneur, and prosperity teacher. But in my mind, he's much more than that. He is an underdog. And the reason why I say that is because a lot more people should know what he has done, what he does, and what he intends to leave as a legacy. He's a physical health guru with over 20 years of personal fitness and nutrition coaching. He started his media career in 2006 as the Food Dude, and then he transitioned to what became the most subscribed health and wellness YouTube channel in the world at the time, with over 100,000 subscribers. Then he decided to start from scratch and take a holistic approach, creating a new movement in the world of personal development and the science of the mind. His philosophy is little by little, a little becomes a lot. And obviously, if you're part of my community and you have read and applied the compound effect, you have experienced this on your own. For me, he has the perfect blend of mental energy, balanced health, spirituality, and financial wisdom. Please welcome the host of the #1 daily motivational podcast in North America with over 30 million downloads, the QOD Show, Mr. Sean Croxton. Sean, welcome to my show. How are you?
I'm good, Carlos. Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate that wonderful introduction. Very cool.
You certainly deserve it. I always tell my guests that we deserve credit, right? Sometimes we don't give ourselves enough credit, and people may know you from the Quote of the Day show, but I think they ought to know your history and all the beautiful things that you have done. So I thought we could start today with a little bit of Sean Croxton history. Before we started recording this, I just learned a little piece of your life that I didn't know about. So I think you can tell us just a little bit about your background and where you're from and all this.
I'm from the Bay Area, from Oakland, California. Let's see. Yeah, the thing I told you about myself that you didn't know was that my mom is Mexican. Right. But I was hoping that I can speak some Spanish with you all today. But unfortunately, I'm not fluent in Mexican. So during your introduction, I picked up a lot of what you were saying, though. So I understood. I'm not sure if I can communicate back. But I'm from the Bay Area. Moved to San Diego in '95, studied exercise, nutritional sciences, graduated from there, became a personal trainer, just wanted to rid the world of obesity. At some point, I learned that a lot of what I learned in college was not true. I learned the food guide pyramid and to do chronic cardio and such, and that wasn't really working for a lot of people, including myself. And so I took this new information that I was learning over to YouTube and started just teaching people what I was learning, just looking for an audience because I couldn't find anybody in real life to talk to about this stuff because they didn't believe me. And so started my YouTube channel in 2006, 2007, and made that show in 2008 or 2000. It was over 7 years of my underground wellness radio podcast. And after that, I decided that I was kind of done with that season of my life and moved on to personal development. And to make a long story short, doing what I do now with the Day, as well as teaching people how to change their relationship with money with my course.
Yeah. Sean, you put yourself on mute there. What you said, the last sentence you said was that you have your Money Mindset Academy, right?
Oh yeah, I was done. I just muted myself out because I had to sniff.
No problem. So, have you always been a health and fitness fan? Did you have an event in your life that made you switch to that? Do you have something particular in your life that became that trigger that moved you into health and fitness?
I think it was mostly my mom. My mom, was very healthy when we were kids, when my brother and I were kids. She used to take us on, jogs and stuff with her and walks around the canyon and such. And my dad may have participated in that a little bit. We were always just taught to be active and to play. And, I think maybe my brother might have been the one who got me into like muscles and stuff. I remember being a really little kid, maybe 6 or 7 years old, getting up early in the morning so I can watch Lee Haney on one of the old ESPN workout shows and being so fascinated by like how he can make his body like that. And so I don't think there was any like one specific event that happened. I was just always fascinated with the fact that you can take your body, and change it and transform it into something new by way of your own effort. I just always found that fascinating. And so I remember one day, I think I was in high school at the time. I remember like flipping through this magazine and I was like, I want that guy's body. Like, I know I'm really far away from that guy's body. He had like thick arms and a big chest. He was just a real like good looking dude. And I was like, I don't know when I'm going to get that body, but I know if I start working on it today, that I'm going to eventually get a body that looks like that. And I just started lifting. I remember we had it's like kind of like a rather side story, but I remember we had in high school, a senior trip to go to the water slides. And I was like real skinny at the time. I was like, when we go to those water slides, I'm going to have abs. And so every day I was in my bedroom doing push-ups and sit-ups, push-ups and sit-ups, push-ups and sit-ups. And finally, months go by and I go to the water slides with my senior class and all the girls are like, Sean,
hey, Sean,
you have a six-pack. I was like, I sure do. Yeah, so I think that acknowledgement, and also just like, wow, like I made a decision about what I'm going to do to my body. I made a decision about when it's going to happen, and it happened, and I can continue to do this.
I love the way you put it. As your body's this thing that you can transform into something. And I also need to point out the fact that you had to unlearn a lot of things that you thought were the right things. I think right now I'm no nutritional expert, but I think right now, one of the key things that we have out there is that people still think about the food pyramid and they think that that's the right way of approaching nutrition. And, obviously now in 2021, that has been proved 100,000 times that is not the right approach. So I'm glad that you brought that up. I recently read Outliers, and I think I am obsessed with the 10,000 hour rule. And I think you have obviously put your 10,000 hours in media by now, right? But I want to know about the very early beginnings, when you first started putting your camera out there and when you were like the food dude. How was this? That was a time where there wasn't as much social media present as we have today. So it was, if people still think that some of the YouTubers out there are crazy people, I can't imagine back in the day, 15 years ago, how was it? So can you tell me about it? And, do you have any memories that you when you look back at it, what do you think about it?
Yeah. What I remember is, if you've ever heard of a book called The Game by Neil Strauss.
I've heard about it, have not read it.
So it's essentially a book about, how to be a better man and how to be better with women, right? And after he launched the book, and it was a very successful book, he had it was called the Style Life Challenge. And it was a 30-day challenge for you to get a date. And I was terrible with women at the time, horrible. And kind of still am. But, but a couple of times a week, like he would give assignments. And again, this is 2006 maybe, and he would use YouTube to give the assignments. And I'm like, that's pretty cool. Like, I would love to be able to put my message out there because nobody in my immediate circle is listening to me. I would love to put my message out there on videos for people to see. But I thought that YouTube was this thing that costs a lot of money. And I just went to the website one day and I was like, wow, this is free. I can put content out there for free. Like, why would somebody not do this? It's free. Like, you know how much money it costs to be on TV? You know what I'm saying? It costs a lot of money. Like, why isn't anybody doing this? And so I'll never forget making my first video. Really janky camera, had the whole ear set and a weird microphone and stuff. It was bad lighting, terrible sound. But I just made a video and I really didn't think much of it. I was just like, I'm just making a video. Maybe somebody might watch it. Maybe somebody doesn't, no big deal. And I put it up there and it just, it didn't get a million views by any means, but the next day I might've been like, oh my gosh, 500 people watched my video. And they're commenting on it. Like, wow, this is crazy. I'm going to do that again. And I kept doing it. And, of course, there were struggles with dealing with negative comments and critical comments at the time. My self-esteem was pretty low at the time. My self-confidence was pretty low at the time as well. My self-image wasn't where it could have been at the time. So that was a struggle for me, but it was definitely a different landscape on YouTube. There was definitely a lot less competition. And I think it was like myself and Dr. Mercola and maybe Kevin Gianni were probably the only 3 health-based or holistic health-based channels at the time. And, the rest is history on that. Now you see what YouTube is. YouTube is a beast.
Yeah, it is. And, you mentioned those beginnings. And I mentioned on the introduction that, underground wellness went way up to become, one or at least one of the biggest health sites out there, right? And channels in YouTube. what do you think was your key to success there? How do you go from let me check this out to I am the man out there in regards to health and nutrition?
Keys to success would be consistency. You got to be consistent with YouTube. You just can't show up one day, then disappear for a while, then show up 2 months from there. You got to be consistent in order to build your audience. I also think it's important to have enthusiasm. You see some videos, especially in the health space these days, and there's some really boring people. You want to have some enthusiasm. You want to look like you're at least passionate about what you're talking about. And you also have to know that, people's attention spans aren't that great. Most people never make it past the first 5 seconds of a video. Like, you have to capture them now. Something I learned in high school drama class was this thing called an AGD, right? AGD. Which was an attention getting device. And so I wanted to capture somebody immediately. And eventually, it became, I don't even know where this came from. It became, yo, what's up, y'all? And it just jolts people where they go, okay, I have to at least sit here and see what this guy's talking about because he seems really excited about it. But yeah, so consistency, getting people's attention, I can't remember the other one.
Enthusiasm.
Enthusiasm is going to be key. And if I can give you one more, just creating good content, not even just good content, creating excellent content. Like, if it wasn't an excellent video, I didn't want to put it out. That stuff just stayed on the computer. So you want to make excellent content because nobody really watches TV that they don't want to watch. Like, you only watch the good shows that you really like. If it's a bad show, you're just going to change the channel. So you just got to make sure that your content isn't bad, that it's well thought out, it's well outlined, delivered with the right enthusiasm, edited well, and just has that fire, and passion to it.
It's great that you mentioned enthusiasm, because that's one of the words that Jim Balbano uses on this speech that resonates with me so much. And that's the one, I listen to you through Spotify, and that's the one show that I have downloaded in my cell phone, because not only what he says about doing extraordinary things, which you have obviously done, I think it also penetrates my soul, the fact that he's talking about his dad, how he lost his dad. And then I think at the first time I heard this was when I recently had my dad pass away. So it's a combination of facts that make this so special for me. And I want to use this point just to ask you, do you have that one quote that, you have obviously thousands of quotes that you have shared, literally. Do you have that one, other than obviously the one that you use for yourself, this little by little, a little becomes a lot? Right. Do you have one quote that you say, this is something that just changed me forever?
I would go back to episode number 1.
Wow.
Which is Bob Proctor. If I want to be free, I've got to be me. Not the me you think I should be. Not the me that my kids think I should be. Not the me that my wife thinks I should be. But if I want to be free, I've got to be me. And that's who me. Something I forget the end of it. Ruined that. But
I felt I was hearing Bob right there.
But I mean that's the key. I mean, you got to be yourself. I was actually working on an Instagram post about this before we came on, but I think it's really hard. Like, it's really draining to go through life not being who you are. And I think a lot of people do that because they're afraid of what somebody's going to think, or someone's going to walk out of the room or walk out of their lives. And it's like, just be who you are with no apologies. And if somebody doesn't like it, they don't like it. And if somebody doesn't want to be your friend because of some opinion you have, well, that's their problem. That's not really yours. I respect all opinions. I don't agree with all opinions, but I understand that people have them, and that, it comes from their past and their experiences and the way that they see the world. And that's okay. We're all wrong about stuff, but we just got to go out there and stop trying not to be wrong and looking for everybody's approval, and just be exactly who we are. And I also love, if I were to say top 5, Jim Valvano is one of them. And that's the enthusiasm. He could have said, guys, every single day in every walk of life, ordinary people do extraordinary things, right? But he didn't. He said, every single day in every walk of life, ordinary people do extraordinary things, right? When you hear the enthusiasm, like you can't but stop and go, whoa.
That's it.
So it's not just the words, it's how you say them.
That's great. And you're absolutely right. I can't avoid asking this. I mean, you went from the food dude to 100,000 in YouTube, big guru there. And then all of a sudden you said, okay, this is not it. Let me go back. Let me start from scratch. What happened? What was that pivotal moment when you said enough underground wellness, let's move on?
I don't really think there was a moment. I was done. I mean, when you read that many health books for 7 years and you talk to so many different experts about things, it gets really redundant and repetitive. And I was just tired. Like I just didn't have the passion for it anymore. And I found myself reading more books about personal development than about health. Like I'd be reading, I don't know, a Jim Rohn book or a Tony Robbins book or whatever. Then I'd be like, damn, I got to get ready for this podcast. I got to read this other book, and just kind of grunt through it. I didn't have the passion anymore. And so, it was a phenomenal business. It was a great run. It was a couple $1 million that I was making a year in that business. But I had the confidence that if I shut this down and use these same skills that I've developed over this 7 years to create something new, and also have the patience with it, that I could do it, and that was 5 years ago. That was the end of 2015. I was November 11, 2015, I believe. And, I knew I had to start kind of from scratch in terms of my knowledge, because in health, like I knew a lot of stuff because I'd read a lot of stuff and I can carry a conversation with anybody in that space. But I remember doing a podcast interview with JJ Virgin for her podcast in maybe 2016. And, she wanted to ask me about personal development stuff. And she's like, so how does somebody change? And I was like, affirmations? I don't know. Like I didn't know what I was talking about. Like I cringe when I think about that, but you're talking about that 10,000 hours. Now I don't quite believe that it's 10,000 hours. You do have to develop a skill. You do have to sit your butt down and read and take courses and things like that. But when I sit back and I think about what I know now that I'm 5 years into this versus what I knew back then, it is night and day. I can tell you everything about how your brain works when it comes to personal development, frequencies, resonance, like all this crazy stuff that I wonder how I made it through life without knowing a lot of the stuff that I know now. You know what I'm saying? Just it's Sean version 7, and that was Sean version 2 back then. And it's just like, wow, the whole thought process was different back then. The decisions were different. The actions were different. The choices I made, there was so much different because it was based on my consciousness at the time. Like, what was I aware of? Now I'm aware of a lot more. And then it makes me wonder, because this is the truth, like, what do I not know? Like, where is this going? Which is wild.
And since you point that out, do you have, do you feel that this could happen with like what you're doing now, the quote of the day and all that? Do you think that there might be a day where you say, okay, enough, let me move on and do something else?
Yeah, totally. Yeah. I mean, life is a video game and you go from, stage to stage, level to level to level to level. And so I can't sit here and say that I'm going to be in personal development for the rest of my life. I feel a nudge to get into politics at some point in my life. Like that's like, when I was like, what do I wish I can talk about more? I would love to talk about politics. I don't do it a lot because it's not really in line with, my current messaging, but, that's what I find myself reading about. Not as much as I read about personal development, but like a quarter of my reading right now is about, politics and the history of politics. And so I may want to go that route in the next couple of years. Who knows? We'll just have to see what happens. Life's just going to unfold.
Well, I'm sure you're going to have a lot of voters. So, all kidding aside, I think I hope that a quarter of the politicians out there from your country and mine had enough wisdom to make the decisions that will impact us in a right way for years to come. Obviously, none of them have the education, real education. I don't mean the college degree education, but the life education to make the decisions that we expect from them. So, if you wish to go that way, I'm certainly you'll do great as well. You have not been happy all the time, and you are very open about it, about your emotional faults, about how therapy has helped you. And I want to dive there for a minute. What can you share with us? What has been your lowest low, and how do you came up from there?
Lowest low. There's been a lot of lows. I mean, there was after college, losing my girlfriend at the time, her moving away. There was that. I mean, that was really, really, really low. There was, I used to have a lot of anger. I used to be I was a good kid when I was young, but there was a lot of things to be mad about. There were things going on in my home that most people don't even know about. You know what I'm saying? Like police officers used to know who I was because they had been to our home for certain things. Like I was the good kid, but hey, Sean, So, I had a hard time for a long time controlling my anger. I would have blackout anger, like temper tantrums, where people be like, yeah, you did this. And I'd be like, whoa, I did that. Like, oh, that's crazy. Like, yeah, you threw that chair against this wall. And I'm like, whoa, that's wild. And so, I had to get to the point where I was like, okay, I need to get some help around this whole anger thing. And I got with a therapist, Matt Sanders, my man, and, saw him consistently for a good year or two. And did some work on my own, reading books about it and things like that. And also a lot of the personal development stuff that I've been learning over the years has helped out tremendously with my emotional intelligence. Like I was raised in a home where there wasn't a lot of emotional intelligence taught to us. Like we didn't really express ourselves. I'm not sure if that's a Mexican thing, like not being expressive with each other, not being physically affectionate and so on and so forth. Because I was raised mostly by my mom and the Mexican side of my family. And I'm not sure if that's true in the cultural perspective. But yeah, those were pretty hard times for me where I was like, I would say to myself, damn, one day you're going to do something terrible. You know what I'm saying? If you don't fix this, you're going to do something terrible that's probably going to put you in prison one day because your temper's terrible. And so, it doesn't mean that I don't get mad anymore, but do I lash out the way that I used to lash out? No, absolutely not. Like I'm not even that guy anymore. And so, those would be like, there's no specific incidents that I can think about right now, but, the tantrums were pretty out of body experipodcast. Yeah.
You encourage people to go to therapy. Obviously you mentioned it in the podcast. And what would you tell someone who doesn't really know if they need therapy or not, but they feel like there's maybe they're perhaps on a gray area and they don't know what to do? What would you tell them?
If you don't really know if you need therapy or not, honestly, that's not even a question. Everybody needs therapy. I don't think it's just like, do I need it? Like, no, like everybody should have a therapist. Everybody should have somebody to go, like a neutral person who's not one of your friends, to go talk about your most secret feelings with, and just to vent and to have somebody do some analysis on you and give you not only tools and tips and strategies for you to deal with the situations you're in or the feelings that you're having, but also just to be a sounding board, because there's so much stuff. I think about emotions as beach balls. Like we have our good, comfortable emotions. You know, we like to play with those. We're like, hey, but then we have those more uncomfortable emotions, and we're taking those beach balls and we're trying to push them underwater. You know, we got 9 of them and we're like trying to keep them all down, suppressing our own emotions. And the thing about that is you can only do that for so long. Number one, it takes a lot of energy, but at some point that ball is going to boom, come out from below the water. And you're going to be like, whoa, like where did that outburst come from? Like that outburst was in you. And so it really helps to sit down with somebody and actually talk about these emotions and just get them out. And you walk out of that room feeling so much better. I mean, there's been times like I've been stressed in my business and I'd be like, Matt, I need an emergency appointment. And he'd be like, come on in at 11:30. And I would drive up there and, by 12:30, once I'm done with him, I'm like, I'm good. I just had to get it out. Some people journal, and write. I like to talk it out. And I just, again, everybody needs therapy. I heard somebody on Clubhouse the other day, Black woman. She's like trying to qualify the fact that she needed therapy. And it's like, what are you trying to qualify this for? Like, it's fine. But there's this stigma in different cultures about therapy, which I think is a disservice for the people who are in that culture.
Well, I think your emotions analogy just blew my mind. I think it's the best emotions analogy I've ever heard.
Thank you.
It's very, very easy to understand what something so deep that sometimes many of us hide or suppress. Like you said, it was so easy to visualize it with your analogy. So, I in my case, I gotta tell you, I have never had a therapy appointment. I do have a coach, which sometimes becomes sort of my therapist, with deep situations. I know they're not the same. I do journal a lot, but I may go ahead and try my first therapy because of you. So thank you for that. You are an avid reader. I mean, sometimes you are talking about all the books you're reading once, and I know you're a book junkie, and I am, but I don't think to your extent. So one of your things is your book club, and one of the members of my community is actually currently participating on your book club. His name is Luis Ivan, and I'll send him a big hug. And he's going to be super excited when he hears this. So I obviously have to ask you this question. If you were to rebuild your life, I know it would be difficult to pick one, but please tell us, the analogy that I use is that if my house burns down and I have to pick one book that will get me to go from scratch, I have few of them, but one of them is like the compound effect. So which 3 books would you say is like, these are the 3 books that I can go back from zero to where I am?
Zero to where I am mentally, like mindset, you're talking about? Okay. Well, yeah. I would go with Self-Esteem by a guy named McKay. I would go with How We Change by Ross Ellenhorn. And I would roll with, it's a tough one. Maybe, you know what? I go with Psycho-Cybernetics by Maxwell Maltz. And the reason why I'd go with those, especially Self-Esteem, is because you can't really accomplish anything in your life without a strong sense of self-esteem. Like you can't. It's literally impossible, because self-esteem is the value that you place on yourself. And so if you want to be a prosperous individual and you don't value yourself, then you're going to feel like you don't deserve that prosperity, and you will always push it away because you're like, I don't deserve this. This isn't for me. This isn't a match for you. So you're never going to have it. We live in a culture that it's an epidemic of low self-esteem. People are so fragile, which is one of the reasons why we have our cancel culture these days, is because people are just fragile. They have their feelings hurt so easily because of just that plague of low self-esteem. And I wish we can learn how to, and in that book, I should say, you'll learn how to silence your inner critic. I used to have the inner critic full blast in my head. Like I can barely hear myself think. It was just inner critic. And I've done a phenomenal job over the years of completely silencing that critic. Like that, I don't even really hear it anymore. I'm just kind of immune to it now. And I think it's the critic that holds a lot of people down. And the critic is usually the voice of a parent, a mother, a father, somebody close to them who told them what they couldn't do, what the person couldn't do. And we believe that. Then we took it on and it became part of our subconscious mind, and whatever's in the subconscious mind will just guide you through the rest of your life. And you're like, why can't I ever do it? It's because there's a voice in your head who's constantly telling that you can't do it. And anything that's repeated over and over and over again, even if it's a lie, becomes the truth. And so self-esteem, like, get that book. It's a 300-page book, and it's not like an easy read at all. But if you just take that book and you study that book for a year, and you implement it and you do all the exercises, there's no way that you can't not become a different person at the end of that year. And when you master that stuff, then all the other personal development stuff that you're going to read, you can actually use, because you're never going to do the stuff that you read in other personal development books if you don't have the self-esteem to actually try it. So that would be my number one.
Wow. I gotta say I'm screwed because I just placed an Amazon order for 4 books yesterday, and now you're making me buy an additional 2. And my
Place
wife,
another one.
My wife is going to kill me.
No, she's gonna love it, because you seem like an amazing person, but you're gonna become more amazing when you finish self-esteem.
Thank you for that. And I'm certainly going to, the way you describe self-esteem, the way the book is, makes me recall Emotional Intelligence by Daniel Goleman, which it's a deep, dense book that you need to take little by little and make sure that you implement whatever you learn from there. So yeah. Thank you for sharing that with us and my community. Sean, you have interviewed the likes of Bob Proctor. And if I don't recall, I saw a quote on one of your sites where Bob said, like, this is the person who has been the most prepared for an interview. And we're talking about big guy here, a lot of baggage and expertise in this personal development world. You have interviewed Lisa Nichols, Marie Forleo, to name a few. So how does it feel to connect with these people you admire so much?
It feels good. It feels like just a pleasure to be able to, what I enjoy most about when I do those interviews with people like Marie and Bob or Nicole Lapin, which is one of my best interviews ever, is that I get to show a side of them that they hadn't shown before to an audience. I get to ask questions that have never been asked before. And that's what I would pride myself on. I always wanted my interviewee to walk away like, oh my God, like that guy, like went above and beyond and allowed me to show a side of myself I'd never shown to anybody before. I damn near made Bob Proctor cry, and that's nothing, I don't pride myself on making people cry, but it was like, I made somebody feel something. And I think that's what people crave. They crave not just the interviewees, but just people in general. They want to feel something, whether that be love or hate. Why do you think people comment like really mean on people's stuff? Because they just want to feel something, So if I can make somebody feel something when I interview them, I've done my job. And that's just really a matter of deep, Carlos, deep preparation. like to a point where it was interfering with my life. It was so deep. And so, but I was obsessed with it. And like Kobe Bryant said, you got to be obsessed. You want to be excellent at what you do. You got to be obsessed. And I was just listening in on a Clubhouse call the other day, and it was people talking about, interviewing, like podcast interviewers, and how to make a great interview. And I'm listening to it. I'm like, oh, no, you guys don't have it yet. You know what I mean? And so you want to get down to somebody's soul. And that's what I try to do. Like if you've never heard the Nicole Lapin interview that I did, the audio's not amazing. The audio could have been better, but she cried pretty much the whole way through. And it was something that she did not expect at all. And if you listen to that one, you'll be like, wow, like that was a therapy session. And that's what I want. That's what, I'll be quiet in a second, but that's what I wanted my interviews to be, were therapy sessions. I wanted to show the flaws and the struggle that people who we look up to have gone through, but also are still going through. And if we can do that, then there is a knowing, a liking, and a trusting that the audience has to have for that person, because they see themselves, the audience sees themselves and their own struggles in the struggles of the person who they're listening to in the interview.
Every interview that I make, there's a moment where my guest is speaking to me, and this was that moment. I always have this. I always tell my people, I have a selfish. There's a selfish portion of why I have a podcast, and that is that I want to learn the most I can from all my guests. And you just told me something that will make me a better person in terms of making better interviews, better podcasts, perhaps more audience. So thank you for that. Do you have, one go-to mentor? I mean, right now, I have to mention a couple of them. I love Tom Bilyeu. I love Vishen Lakhiani, Jim Quick. These are like my Mount Rushmore of personal development leaders right there. Do you have that for yourself?
I would say, I don't have an official mentor. I am a part of Dr. Srini Pilay's monthly group, which is phenomenal. He's the guy who literally changed my life with his book called Life Unlocked, where I learned about my fear of success. And I also became fascinated with the brain's role in personal development. Like if we talk about any personal development topic right now, I can not just give you like the surface stuff, like, the Bob Proctor universe energy. I will be like, oh, that's that part of your brain and the other part of the brain. And this happens because this part's talking to the other part. I love all that stuff. And so he introduced me to that. So I thoroughly enjoy our monthly calls. But, in terms of, I just find just random books, man. Your subconscious mind, it just guides you to where you're supposed to go. It's amazing. Just I'll go to a bookstore and I'll just find some random book, and like my eye will just be like, oh, that one. And I'll be like, oh, I'll flip through it and I'll be like, oh shit, this is the book. And I'll take it home and be like, oh my God, this is the exact book that I needed for this next piece of the puzzle, And so I just allow that thing to flow. And, I think one of our greatest advisors is ourselves, is our unconscious selves. And so if you give your brain the destination of where you want it to take you, it'll take you there. You just have to be willing to listen. I think a lot of people don't listen to those gut feelings. When I have a gut feeling, I'm on it. I'm like, okay, yeah, this is the one. Let's go.
That's beautiful. Where do you see Sean Croxton 10 years from now? What's your vision of yourself?
My vision, 10 years, I haven't thought about 10 years. I've thought about 5 years, but 10 years, I might be in Congress or something. Who knows? I don't know. I think I will be in the political arena in some form or fashion, whether that be behind the scenes, helping candidates that I love with their marketing and their social media strategy and getting their word out to people. But I think Do you remember Ross Perot? I'm not sure if you're old enough to remember Ross Perot.
No.
But Ross Perot was the third candidate in was it Bush? When Bush was running against Bill Clinton, I want to say. And, he was an old Texas billionaire he would use like a chart and he would teach people stuff like, and this was the economics and it goes down here and da-da-da-da-da-da. And he was such a good teacher that he resonated with the people to the point where he became a factor in the race. And, I see myself doing that because when I'm talking about political things with people, I have a way of simplifying them where they go, oh, okay, now that makes sense. But there's so much information out there that people are confused and they've kind of given up on politics, or they talk about it, but they don't really know what they're talking about. And so I like taking those complicated matters, just like I did with health, just like I've done with personal development, and taking those complicated matters of politics and being like, okay, here's a flip chart. Here's what's happening. Here's what this side says. Here's what this other side says. This is what makes sense. This doesn't make sense. And here's how it applies to your life. And they can go, okay, I'm on board with that. And my brain doesn't have to burn a lot of calories in order to understand that, Sean. And we need more of that in politics right now. And so that's where I see myself going. Just a hunch that I'm headed in that direction.
That's great. Second time you mentioned it. So I'm sure that there's a little bit more than a hunch there. I think that's deep in there. So I know you'll make a great contribution to humanity, which is what we need. Before I ask you my last question, I am hoping that everybody from my community have heard your podcast before, but I just want to give you a couple minutes to invite my community to where they can follow you or connect with you or get to your programs, anything you want to tell them.
Yeah, thank you very much, Carlos. You can learn more about me at seancroxton.com. Jump onto my email list, get my free ebook, The Money Mindset Made Simple. That was the old one. Money Mindset Made Simple for free. And you'll get on my email list. You get a couple of emails from me every week about the show, or I have some like special offer or launch going on. And definitely follow me on Instagram at Sean Croxton. I usually post twice a day. Usually it's just like one of my thoughts, and then we'll have like one of the videos that comes from the show. And that's really it, man. I've had a lot of fun. This has been good. I love talking to people about this stuff. It's great.
This has been great. My last question, I know you will learn Spanish before your visit to Puerto Rico. I'm making you accountable that before you run into politics, you got to come to a Gana tu Dia event. So Gana tu Dia means, winning the day, right? Making those 3-5 things that will help you get closer to the person that you want to become. So how does Sean Croxton wins his day?
How do I win my day? I win my day by, number one, taking care of myself. That's my number one priority. Like if I'm like, when am I going to exercise today? Like I need to exercise and take care of me. Daily exercising, daily reading, and doing work that I care about. Like those are the 3 things. And then of course, spending time with friends a few times a week. So if I don't do that, I get a little crazy. I went to breakfast with a friend this morning. Just gotta get social. And that's it. I don't have any kids, no wife right now. So there's a lot of time by myself. So I got to make sure I get that social in. So again, exercise every day, read every day, or learn something every day. And then just do work that you really, really care about. I don't like doing stuff I don't want to do. There's got to be something I love to do. And that's it. It keeps me healthy, keeps me looking and feeling young. And I love it. I love my life. It's a good one.
That's beautiful. One of the ways I learn every day is with your podcast. So please keep doing it. It's something that, whenever I wake up, I usually work out in the mornings, and on my way to working out, I am listening to your podcast kind of talking to myself, making sure that I plant those seeds that will make my day great. So thank you for what you do. I always like to tell my audience, what I learned from my guests. So first of all, you said, transform your body into something. And I would say that, you want to transform your body into something you love, and that also will make you better every day, right? You wouldn't be able to do the multiple things you do if you were in bad shape. So that's the first thing. You always take care of your body. Your keys to success: consistency. Obviously, this is something that we have repeated over and over, and it won't get old. Consistency is going to be key. Enthusiasm, like Jim Balvano said, and we want to make sure that we create the attention that we want on the people that are entering our communities. So you said something that was beautiful said, among many things. If I want to be free, I have to be me. Stop living somebody else's life, right? Just be yourself, and do like Sean. Make sure that you level up, because our life is like a video game. So you want to make sure that you level up and you go to the next level with more enthusiasm. So Sean is a human being. He still has angry moments, and he needs help. So one of the things that I love is connecting with people like you that I admire, just to make sure that I continue to see proof that you are just a human being, just like me, and like ordinary people, we can both do extraordinary things. So, this was beyond amazing for me. Really appreciate your time, Sean. I'm sure that whoever watches this or listens to this is going to get out of this with their minds blown away. So thank you. And, to our audience, I hope that you like this as much as I know you loved this as much as I did. So make sure that you share it with people who can get inspired by human beings like Sean Croxton, and subscribe to our channel. Help me support my vision of touching 100,000 lives. I'm sure that we'll get there. And this is the first time I do this in English, so but I have to do it. This is the way I close every episode. Is like, remember, you are the only one responsible of your own life, and the best way to reach your dreams is developing the habits that will take you there. You are your habits. So every day, make sure that you take the actions that will make you the person you want to become, so that when you get to your bed every night, you can say, I won my day. Thank you very much, Sean. Gracias. And I'm sure we'll talk again at some point.
Thank you very much, Carlos. Good stuff, man.